This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. We are coming at you with another Brokers Roundtable today, diving into unconventional ways that you can make money on commercial real estate. As brokers, we get to analyze deals all the time. And because of that, we have seen some very interesting things that people have done to make money on commercial real estate that is outside of the norm, right? We're not talking about traditional leasing. That's boring. We want to talk about the weird things. So I think we're going to have a really fun conversation. Chad Griffiths is with me as always. Jesse and Adam may be joining. I know they're running behind. That is the joy of being a broker. You've got a lot of meetings and a lot of sales, and sometimes those calls bleed over. But Chad, excited to be diving into this with you. Before we do, you've got a book coming out, man. Tell us a little bit about the book. Let's go ahead and start teasing it.
Yeah, I do. I'm hoping to launch it May 1st. I've got it with the copy editor right now, and just having a few more things added in, including a preface from you. So I'm super excited. It's something I've been working on for over a year. Everything to do about industrial real estate. So it'd work for someone just getting into the industry or someone that's already in it and just wants to fine tune their skills. It's a deep dive into everything. I have a whole chapter on sprinklers as an example. So it's a comprehensive book.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, but that's what it takes, right? If you're going to write the book, the thesaurus, the Bible on industrial real estate, you can't not have a chapter about sprinklers.
It'd be a failure. It'd be an incomplete book.
What's the point?
Yeah. So I think 36 chapters right now on it. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, but yeah, super excited to get it out.
Oh, that's great, man. Well, let me know when it's available for pre-order, because I will order one for every single person in my mastermind. I think that would be a great gift to give everybody. So
I appreciate that.
Thanks for writing it, man. I'm working on my second book right now. I released my first one. Writing a book is like getting a tattoo. I did my first one when I was 25, so 7 years ago. And when you go through it, it is an unbelievably painful process. And by the time you're done, you're like, you know what? I'm really glad that I did this. And then you start to forget over the years how painful the process was, and then you want to do it again. It's just like getting a tattoo. So
women might say it's like having a kid. They might use that analogy.
Yeah, it's like having a baby. You know, it's a painful process. You complain about it the whole time you're doing it, and then as soon as it's there, you're like, all right, let's get another one.
I've got a couple tattoos, and funny enough, I went through a spell when I was younger, and I did the same thing. I was like, I just need more of these. And then I think I did hit that point where I was like, you know what? That was pretty painful. And I haven't had one in 20 years now, but maybe I get the itch to add one in again.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, obviously, sorry guys for the tangent, but yeah, I haven't gotten a tattoo in a few years now, and I'm kind of surprised because I thought that I was just going to keep going, but man, eventually they just get so painful. You're like, it's not worth it at this point. But
would you ever
Chad,
add the other sleeve?
That's what I'm debating right now. It's like, should I do the other sleeve or should I keep it like one sleeved up and one bare? I don't know. We'll see. Adam's jumping in now. He's like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yeah, wow. I've got some hard-hitting interview questions, it sounds like.
Yeah, really nailing you with the tattoo talk.
A lot of people have been asking me about my skincare routine, so that's what I'm here to talk about.
I was more curious about how your beard is looking so magical. Like, we need some beard
Adam,
care
we
tips.
need hair tips, dude. I mean, you've got the flow, man. You know.
I'll give you guys 10 minutes to stop talking like this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. 10 minutes. That's it. That's great. Well, guys, let's go ahead and jump on in. So like I said, today we're talking about unconventional ways to make money from commercial real estate. And there's so many ways that you can monetize a property outside of what you would think is normal. For example, here at my office building, we rented 17 parking spaces, because I didn't need all of that parking, to a group that rents Teslas for people that are coming in town to Nashville, right? That's $100 a parking spot a month for 17 spaces, so $1,700 that just fell out of the sky. And so, Chad, I want to turn it over to you first, man. I mean, on the industrial front, let's talk about like micro monetization, right? Underutilized spaces within properties. I mean, what have you seen that's interesting or creative, where owners are turning smaller or unused portions of a property into something that's revenue generating?
I've got a great one, and it's a client of mine that just did this 2 years ago now. So I've toured it with him. Fascinating what he did. So they've got about a 8-acre site that they have for a truck terminal. The terminal is actually pretty small, the building itself, but as you could appreciate, there's just a lot of tractor trailers and overflow on there. They had about an acre of excess land that wasn't being used at all. So I think there was 60 in total. It might have even been a few more than that. 60 sea cans, 20-foot sea cans, so not even the full 40-foot equivalent. 20-foot sea cans. They stacked. Actually, no, they didn't stack any of these. They're all just right on the ground, and they rent them out for $100 a month. So for somebody that wants self-storage, these are cheaper than any of the competitors, because most of them are now climate controlled buildings. They become really expensive, these self-storage buildings. So they're cheaper than anything on the market. And the person gets a 20-foot deep self-storage unit that they can come and go whenever they want. It's very easy maintenance. They've got a computer system on there, and they're almost, I think they're full. At the time that I went through it, they were full, and they had a waiting list. They were actually thinking of doubling the amount of space that they had and actually reducing their core business operations, actually taking some of their fleet off because it was more lucrative to actually have these storage containers on there. So that's the one thing. Anybody that's sitting on excess land in the industrial space, if they're not utilizing it and it's already been prepared, whether it's graveled or asphalt or concrete, and it's fenced and there's already security in there, look to what other options you can do to just rent out that yard space, whether it's individual ones like that where someone's just renting a storage unit, or whether someone needs to park excess inventory or vehicles or anything in there. That is a really easy way to, and there's a shortage of it too. There's not a lot of those being marketed. So find a way to do it. If you've got a client that has excess land, I mean, you're ingratiating yourself and making yourself a very vital component of their business. If you're helping them, even though the fee might not be great, even if you're just helping them do it, you're getting their business forever. So that's anything with excess land. I think that there's a gold mine there.
I'm going to ask a dumb question. Is CCAN Canadian for shipping container?
It is. Yeah, you don't say CCAN in the
That's
US.
awesome.
The same
That
thing.
is that is so much cooler than shipping container. I'm going to have to start calling them CCANs. That's awesome.
No, I didn't know that was a Canadian term. Usually the Canadian terms are for like really stupid things like the loony, which just sounds stupid. CCAN actually sounds pretty cool. So glad to know that's originated in Canada.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Okay, we're going to have to start using CCANs. Everybody make note of that. Adam, retail is really interesting because I feel like retail probably takes advantage of like underutilized spaces better than really the other asset classes, right? I mean, you've got pop-ups, you've got, food trucks, things like that. I mean, what have you seen on the retail front that's creative and interesting ways to monetize?
You know, we've mentioned a few of them. The pop-ups is definitely something that people utilize. Like for an example, I've got a landlord right now that we're trying to put a deal together for a Metallica merch pop-up because they're playing at our big arena here in a couple months, and they're like, we want to be there for 2 weeks. You know, we'll pay you rent, we'll pay you percentage rent. You know, we need to be within X number of yards of the arena. And some other interesting ones that I've seen, I mean, some that we've touched on, right? Like using a parking lot to add a drive-up ATM, electric charging stations, a drive-through, like standalone coffee barista, right? Where the guy just like comes in and takes a postage stamp and turns it into revenue. Unfortunately, in retail leases, you have to be very careful with a few things. One, everybody wants term, right? So unlike the shipping container, the CCAN approach, where at the end of the day, like you're probably only signing 3-month, 6-month leases. A lot of these leases are 10 years, so that can be problematic. The other thing is view corridor restrictions. If you have savvy retail users, a lot of times they have really strict rules about what can be in between, like their sight line, like their front door and a highway or an entrance point and egress point. So those are a couple things to keep in mind. Another one that I've seen that was kind of interesting is if you have a concept like specifically restaurant where you've overbuilt the kitchen. We always say like you let the chef design the kitchen, which means it's just massively overbuilt. We've seen people go in and actually do ghost kitchens out of their current restaurant where they have other people that are coming in and leasing it at off hours to prep or using it as a hub for their food truck. Because in Charlotte, you have to have like a commissary kitchen of record when you're going in and setting up your food truck. So there's a lot of creative ways, but just make sure to check the boxes. Like another one that we're doing now, and I'll shut up. We've got a beautiful project that we're doing right in the middle of South End. So Main and Main, best submarket in Charlotte. The office is done and the retail has taken a while to get finished out because it takes so long to build these things. So we went out and found this amazing coffee user called Astoria Coffee, and they had this small little like mini Airstream looking little coffee cart that they just wheeled in, had their own generator. They were serving coffee in like, from the first time I talked to them to the first latte was like 3 weeks, which in my world, you can't even get a permit set drawn, much less approved. So we see some really cool ideas here and there.
Yeah, I love getting creative on that stuff. If you're joining us live, question of the day: what's an unconventional idea that you'd love to try or see in action on a commercial property to monetize it? Drop it in the comments. Let us know. I mean, Adam, on that front, I've always thought a lot of these retail spaces are paying a lot of rent and they're open for like 8, 10, 12 hours a day, right? So you basically have half a day where if you can do the ghost kitchen at night for prep, or you can, rent it out to someone else, it makes a lot of sense. Like, why doesn't the coffee shop become a bar at night, right? We actually had a group here in Nashville, a couple of buddies of mine that are partners in some deals with me. They had a real estate company. What they noticed was that all of their brokers were working out of coffee shops. So they're like, why bother spending all this money on an office space that none of the people use? So what they did is they started a coffee shop that now has I think they're working on their 3rd and 4th locations, that has a conference room and an office in the back. And so their office is monetized. Like, that's a brilliant way of doing that. Really cool. Jesse, speaking of office.
Love that idea.
Yeah, isn't that brilliant? I'm like, man, I should have thought of that. It's such a great idea. Jesse, on the office front, man, I mean, what are you saying? Co-working space, that's kind of old news at this point, but that was a creative way to monetize additional office space at one point. What else are you seeing these days?
Yeah, like we've with additional or excess space, everything from amenitizing it for the building to having, depending on the actual building itself, having data centers, co-location, depending on where the excess is. A lot of times for us, it's not, like I said earlier, the amenitizing the space. So, landlords, like you said, you have a bunch of people using coffee shops, and then they just decide, why don't we just put an actual shared space within the building? And it is extra income in the sense that it's kind of offsetting the cost of it. So a lot of times those landlords, they're not downloading those costs. It's not going to increase their additional rent, but it'll offset, the income that they do have in there will offset the cost of maybe having one or two people to run the place on a day-to-day basis. We're starting to see a lot more of that in general. But yeah, in terms of, I don't think we have the brightest ideas, or we're not as savvy as some of the other stuff you see where, cell towers and, all kinds of stuff in the industrial and the land side. The one thing, and I'm not sure if this is different for your market, but in our market, you can't advertise on residential properties, so even apartment buildings. So when it comes to billboards, any ads, any commercial ads, they have to go on commercial buildings here. So that's something we see in our market, and that's going to depend on where you are in the city or outside of the city to kind of necessitate, or if you have the foot traffic or highways where it's useful for you to actually kind of put billboards and signs up.
Yeah, I've always thought that, like, especially on the larger office buildings and in multifamily properties, especially, like, some of these larger office buildings will have a gym, right,
Yep.
as an amenity for their tenants, and that's very common in apartments. Like, why not rent that out to a personal trainer,
Hmm.
right? Like, if nothing else, they have to maintain and take care of it, so you're at least offloading the expense, and then it adds, an additional amenity and a way to monetize it in different ways. I've always thought that could be an interesting approach, and I've seen a couple of groups do that, but nobody's really blanketed that out. So I wonder why.
Well, just to cut on that point, one of the biggest, largest new developments in Toronto is CIBC Square, and what they've done is pretty much they've decked it out with a, full kind of food court area that's done up really high end restaurants, but also they've done a gym where I think the cost was so high that they still had to charge something, but it's nominal. It's like $40 a month, or compared to what 200 $300 gyms in the city monthly. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. Um, Chad, Jesse mentioned some billboards and telecom towers and things like that. I mean, that's obviously more common in the industrial space. You guys have way more land than most of us in office, retail, and hospitality have. I mean, what are you seeing in terms of billboards? Do you have or cell towers, stuff like that? Do you have clients that are actively doing that? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, we actually have one on a building that I own. It's an industrial building, but it's on kind of a busier road, and we get $8,000 a year for that billboard and do nothing. The billboard company manages all the ads and everything, and they have a separate business agreement for that. But yeah, it's $8,000 a year just to have a billboard on the property. So if you can go and do that, it's huge. Where I think that there's even a cooler or more potential opportunities on a digital billboard, because if you get 8,000 for, and I'm guessing we probably have 20,000 vehicles a day on our road, so it's all based on volume and who's driving by there. But if you can have a digital one, we looked into it, and for our municipality there's a law that you can only have so many on any given corridor, so we weren't able to do it. But had we been able to, we could have charged $25,000 a year for that digital billboard. So there's huge opportunity, whether you can just get a basic one where they come and change it manually, or where they can change the ads digitally and just run a new ad every 15 seconds. Huge opportunity. And that's pure NOI. So just like quick math, you go and capitalize the income stream on a billboard, just how much you're adding the value of the building. Huge. So yeah, anyone that has any type of uh, normal or above normal traffic, if they're on somewhat of a main road, look into a billboard. Instant value add, instant NOI, instant value to the building.
Yeah, I've got a billboard on my office building here, and I hate it just because I don't like seeing it, right? But at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, but it's $750 a month, and you don't have to do anything for it. It's it's kind of hard to argue with.
I love that billboard, and I don't even have to look at it. I love your billboard. That's
That's right.
$750 a month. That's huge. I love your
Yeah,
billboard. You should take a picture of it. I want to see. I want to see this billboard. That
yeah.
was
I'll go
awesome.
up there. I'll go up there and take a selfie with my billboard. How this thing makes me $750 a month. Adam, retail is really, really, really good at the experiential side of things and the community-based events. And actually, when I came up to Charlotte, I got to tour a couple of properties with your partner that were doing a phenomenal job of, treating these properties basically like event venues, right?
Mhm.
What do you see with regards to that front, and how can that be monetized, or how does it create monetization in a roundabout way?
I think that if you're not thinking about how to, I don't even want to call it monetize, but how to experientiate. I just made that word up. Like, that word doesn't
I like
exist.
it.
But I
See
mean,
can and experientiate.
yeah, CCAN. I think that CCAN's probably better. Uh, but like, if you're not building your entire, and I'm not even talking about the actual concept, right? Because if you're not making your concept an experience now, then you're not trying that hard. But I think you have to weave moments into the actual project itself, right? Like you have to think about, I know it's super cliche to say Instagram moments, these days. But that's what people really care about, right? Like that's it really, really matters to the young people that are out there using these things on a daily basis. So if you're not really thinking about how to engage with the community, whether that be your immediate surroundings and neighbors or your community of people that love your project, love coming to your space, then you're missing out on a tremendous amount of opportunity. And it's hard to point to, like that billboard, right? It's hard to point to the experience NOI generator, right? And I think I've told this story before. I was helping an institutional investor reprogram their downstairs, and we took I'm not going to mention names, but we took this old FBI holding cell and turned it into 3 really cool retail users. So I'm sitting here in front of like a bunch of stuffed shirts, right? And I'm like, listen, we're gonna take it, we're gonna make it super cool, yada yada yada, doing my little song and dance, singing for my supper. And he stops. He's like, let me stop you real quick, Adam. He's like, how many basis points do I get for cool? And he's like, like looks around, everybody's like laughing at me. And then we did it. We were able to totally change the property, and they sold it for a shit ton of money. So he actually did get some basis points for cool, but if you get developers that don't understand that, they are going to miss out on a major form of monetization.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's tough to quantify the basis points around cool, but I've never seen it not work out, right? Like it adds something, and if nothing else, it means that a tenant's probably going to lease faster, or you'll create some sort of competition there to get that lease, simply because you've created something unique that people want to be around, right? And I think that really, really matters. Jesse, on the office front, when it comes to tech-enabled properties, right, that has been a big thing. Internet of Things, we're talking like digital concierge services and AR and VR-driven leasing. I mean, we actually were doing property tours through VR, 6 years ago, give or take. That's not necessarily on a monetization front, but it can cut down on costs. I mean, what are you seeing in terms of property owners implementing just tech into their office portfolios?
Yeah, so like 2 things on that. One is, we were just talking about this. So I'll put this in 2 frames. We have a pitch coming up next week, and then we had a pitch a few months ago. The pitch a few months ago, we won, and part of our solution was a tech-driven solution. The pitch that we have for next week, we have unbuilt 42,000 square feet of office that needs to be leased. Cushman had it for a number of years, couldn't lease it. It's the same story of, does the landlord put the money in to build it out, or do we deck it out, get VR systems so that we can really put some decent amount of money, but nowhere near a full build out into the tech so that people can kind of visualize it. So now we're kind of contemplating on how we want to approach that. Maybe if the landlord is adamant about not spending money until they find the right tenant, which is kind of the chicken and egg thing happening in office right now. We're exploring VR, and I think the technology is starting to get a lot better to where it was like 5 years ago, when you're just like, this is okay, but you got older guys here getting dizzy. You don't really see the space completely. Now, the pitch that we did a couple months ago, which we won, part of what we did is we saw that there was this mixed-use development in like Western Canada and Burnaby, and they used basically a LED screen on the building that was hung. So it's LED, but it's not like a solid piece. It's kind of like strung, so you can see out. And what we found was we started to engage groups about advertising and using directories. Now, obviously, this all has to be to code in your area. There's certain, illumination, bylaws depending on the city. But once we started engaging with companies with these directory signs, the amount of monthly income some of these can generate is incredible. And what's great with digital signs and the technology is that they're not static, right? You could basically have somebody from this hour to this hour that gets to advertise, and this hour to this hour, and it's all programmed, and it's just like somebody putting a billboard on your property, but there's just more flexibility to it. So we that partly the reason we won the pitch, I think, was bringing technology to the forefront with commercial buildings where you don't see it very often, especially on the office side. It takes us a while to get up to speed with tech.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've been lamenting the fact that commercial real estate has been stuck in the 1980s since I got into it, and it seems like we're here within the past couple of years, it's actually
we're
speeding
like
up.
the early 2000s now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We're
like
no longer
25 years
operating
old.
on Windows 98.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's catching up. Well, gentlemen, with the remaining 4 or 5 minutes that we have left, would just love to hear with regards to your business, your asset class, moving into this market, right? Which I think it's important to be considering all strategies for generating rental income. What's at the forefront of your mind as you're moving forward through 2025? Chad, we'll kick it off with you.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it succinct so the other guys don't feel pressure for time. I think that there's going to be a tale of two subcategories of industrial this year. There's going to be big box warehousing, which has been overbuilt in almost every market in North America. And then there's going to be all the other industrial. So mid bay, small bay, flex, manufacturing properties. That there hasn't been a lot of that inventory being added. And I think the economy is still going to continue to grow. Population is still going to continue to grow. So there's going to be need for that small, medium bay manufacturing space, which is undersupplied, and then we have an oversupply that we have to work through on the big box. So I think there's a tendency to group industrial together into one asset class, much like office and retail. You guys feel the same thing, but there really will. People are going to have to drill down and say you hear a national stat. Let's say the national stat says it's 6% vacancy. Well, that could be, but it could be a 1% vacancy if you look for small bays in Nashville. And it could be 15% if you look for a big box warehouse outside of a major city that overbuilt. So it's really going to be drilling down, and it's just going to be, like Dickens said, tale of two cities. It's going to be the tale of two sub-asset categories for industrial.
I love it. I think that's very true.
It doesn't sound nearly as poetic as
it's not
Dickens
as sexy.
said.
I mean, you might not be able to write a whole, best-selling novel around that, but
should have stopped at CCAN.
Dude, I love that. CCAN is so cool. Adam, what about you, man?
Honestly, retail is in a tough spot right now because of a supply constraint. Retail it's not like industrial, where it's like zoning and like hub driven. Like people really want to be in these little nodes, and there's just not a lot of supply. So we're seeing not a lot of supply, and if people do have space, the rent has gotten pushed to a point just through construction costs and a lack of supply, to a point where very few people can actually pay the rent. So it's just creating a little bit of like a static state in retail, and there's just not a tremendous amount of supply on the horizon. So unfortunately, I think there's less deals getting done because there's just less deals to do, and there's less people that can afford to expand right now with the rates as high as they are. That said, I mean it's a fairly strong market. I'm lucky because I'm in Charlotte, but there are some headwinds because of those reasons, I would say.
It's going to be interesting. Jesse, take us home, man.
I think office is due for a bull market right now. I think, unfortunately, right now, it's definitely going to be specific to the markets, right? Everybody, even at the cycles are all slightly different in different markets. For our market here, I think we really are in what feels like the beginning of the next cycle, and then all these tariffs came in and all of like this political uncertainty in our country. So right now I'm still cautiously optimistic that interest rates are going to go slowly come down in Canada, provided there isn't a geopolitical kind of outlier event that happens here. But in terms of the market itself, I do think that we did need a little bit of the creative destruction that happened and is continuing to happen in the office market, where there was just, we built a lot of office and it was not as efficiently used, and still isn't as it could be. So I think companies are getting leaner. They're trying to understand what they need. If it's four times in the office, we're hearing a lot about 4.5 days a week or 3.5 days a week. And I think there's going to be some reality as to when the dust settles, maybe that's 4 days a week in our market. But I'm still, I love office. I still think it's going to be a part of our market. It's just I think it's going to continue to transform as it has over the last 3 to 5 years.
Well, based on all these tariffs, man, you guys might be able to build some stick-built office buildings for a lot cheaper than the United States is going to. So I would imagine you might be able to attract some new tenants your way.
We might have a lot of aluminum here in the next little while.
Yeah, no kidding.
Be sheds.
Golly.
The new houses will
for
just be
sea
giant
cans.
sheds. Yeah, there's sea cans.
What a nightmare. Gentlemen,
Yeah.
thanks for joining me. If you are listening, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a review. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we will be back in a couple weeks with another round of Brokers Roundtable. We'll see y'all then. This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more.